Welcome to today's lecture in our professional development series. Before we commence, we would like to do an acknowledgement of country. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, water, and culture. We are currently on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Selena.
And my name is Eunice, and we will be discussing how to navigate bilingualism and multilingualism for teachers of primary school children. First, we will be providing an introduction to bilingualism and multilingualism by outlining statistics and benefits. Then, we will be discussing common misconceptions associated with bilingualism and multilingualism. After, we will discuss potential difficulties bilingual and multilingual children may have in the classroom and provide suggestions for teachers to overcome these challenges.
Bilingualism is where an individual is able to communicate in two languages, whereas multilingualism is described as the ability to speak, sign, or understand more than one language. Specifically, a bilingual or multilingual child is one that may not be proficient in all of their languages, but may be exposed to multiple languages through their environment, including home, school, and language schools. As Australia is made up of multiple cultural identities and communities, statistics gathered from the Australian Bureau of Statistics 2021 census reflect the diversity of language and linguistics used across the country. Data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics 2021 census recorded Australians speak over 400 different languages collectively. 167 of these are actively spoken Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander languages. Approximately 23%, equating to 5.6 million, report speaking a language other than English at home. The most common languages spoken other than English are Mandarin, Arabic, Vietnamese, Cantonese, Punjabi, Greek, and Italian. Additionally, 51.5% of residents reported either being born overseas or having an immigrant parent. With multilingualism being a common part of society, there are advantages that can present for both the individual child as well as society. Research evidence shows that speaking more than one language is associated with cognitive, social, educational, and emotional benefits. Cognitive benefits refers to the advantages to brain function, including improved performance in abstract and symbolic representation, attention, phonological awareness, vocabulary, executive functioning, and metacognitive capabilities, including knowledge about one's own learning and problem solving. Social benefits consider the improvements to well-being and relationships a multilingual child may experience. These include having better social skills, empathy, so understanding how other people are feeling, theory of mind, where they understand what other people are thinking, as well as perspective taking. Compared to monolingual peers, multilingual children may also have educational advantages, being better at letter and word identification, problem solving, reading comprehension and vocabulary, mathematical ability, and literacy skills. Another important benefit to consider with raising a multilingual child are the emotional benefits. In embracing multilingualism, children are more inclined to having a stronger sense of identity and connection to cultural identity, a sense of belonging and increased self-esteem, the ability to build relationships with people who speak their home language, such as parents, grandparents, extended family, and the community, as well as access to cultural practices and religious practices that only take place in the home language.
There are many misconceptions associated with bilingualism and multilingualism. This can often deter families from introducing another language that is part of their culture. Today, we will discuss 6 common misconceptions. Number 1, bilingualism, multilingualism can delay children's language acquisition and development. Being bilingual or multilingual does not delay a child's language acquisition. It is normal for children to potentially have a different rate of acquisition of the vocabulary, inflection, and sentence construction. By age 4, this difference is usually resolved. The home language, though it may be different to the primary language used at school, can become the linguistic basis for English, as new knowledge of a language is always built on the language acquired first. It is possible that children will experience a silent period in their language development. This is a period during the child's acquisition of a second language where they are actively processing the language in their head but do not produce verbal output. The silent period can vary from 3 to 6 months and usually lasts longer for younger children. Nevertheless, it is ideal for young children to be introduced to foreign languages as their brain is still developing, highly flexible, and hardwired to acquire the language. For these young children, learning a foreign language is cognitively as easy as learning a first language. If the child's first language is not supported at school, their second language may in fact become dominant. Children of culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds may be misdiagnosed with a developmental language disorder during this time. Number 2, speaking more than one language is challenging and confusing for children. Children who speak more than one language from an early age do reach the same developmental milestones as monolingual children. In fact, evidence shows that bilingual and multilingual children perform stronger in tasks that involve selective attention, inhibition, switching attention during problem solving, working memory, abstract thinking, resistance to distractors, and cognitive inconsistencies. Speaking more than one language will allow children to communicate with their family, extended family, and loved ones. Number 3, bilingual, multilingual children cannot distinguish between languages and struggle to know when to use each language. Children who speak more than one language will learn to code mix or code switch. This is the process of switching between languages depending on the social situation and/or setting. Specifically, code mixing is where the child mixes between their first and second language within one sentence. This can be through the use of words or phrases. Code switching is where the child mixes between their first and second language within a conversation. When speaking to communication partners who are also bilingual or multilingual, children may code mix or code switch. For example, if children are unsure of a word in a particular language, they will opt to code mix or code switch. Children will realize that if they do not code mix or switch, it will lead to a communication breakdown with their communication partners. Number 4, bilingual, multilingual children have smaller vocabularies. Within an individual language, it is possible that children will have a smaller vocabulary inventory than monolingual peers. However, bilingual and multilingual children usually have a wider vocabulary inventory as they have words across their languages. Number 5, being bilingual, multilingual will slow down children academically. Being bilingual and multilingual is a strength. As mentioned previously, multilingual children have educational advantages. Evidence shows that bilingual and multilingual children are particularly skillful with letter and word identification, problem solving in mathematics, reading comprehension, vocabulary, and literacy skills. Number 6, parents should use the one parent, one language approach if they want their child to grow up to be bilingual or multilingual. This is definitely a misconception. Children can make the distinction between two languages. The quantity and quality of language provided to children is important. So, it is crucial that parents support their children by speaking the language they are most confident with at home. If parents are confident with both English and the additional language, it is ideal for them to speak both languages with the child. This will increase their child's exposure to both languages in the home environment.
Often, children who are multilingual may experience language difficulties with using and understanding English, but not their home language. This is due to a language difference and not a language delay or disorder. Rather, children who are multilingual may experience difficulties learning the English language and the associated principles of language production, including syntax or sentence structure, vocabulary and grammar, and understanding the language, such as sequences and instruction. Things that can be implemented in the classroom and school environment to support children who struggle with language production include modeling, Lots of modelling of language and increased exposure can help children comprehend and imitate the English language structure. This can be through class or group discussion with students and reading books aloud. Acknowledging differences in pronunciation. Understanding variances in word pronunciations can help facilitate greater acknowledgement of differences and foster an inclusive learning environment respectful of children's cultural backgrounds. Explicit teaching of vocabulary and sentence formation. This can be implemented through having a word of the day, where activities presented in class will demonstrate practical and contextual application of the word, and for sentence formation, use of colourful semantics, where structure is demonstrated in reference to who is doing what, where, how, and why. Additionally, it is important to consider a child's home country and first language, where their primary language may not consist of the same sounds or alphabet notations as the English alphabet. Therefore, it is common for multilingual children to take some time to acquire both consonants and vowel sounds, and also fatigue more easily due to the higher cognitive processing load. Teachers can support this speech sound development and the mapping of sounds by providing models of clear speech production and explicit teaching and support with learning letter sound correspondence. Continued monitoring can also provide a good indication of children that may require collaborative support with a speech language pathologist or EALD teacher.
So, how can we support children who struggle with understanding language in the classroom? Provide instructions that are short and simple, or alternatively, break up multi-step instructions into short and simple individual instructions. This will reduce the cognitive load on children. Using simple vocabulary in place of more challenging terms will also ease this process for children. For example, instead of saying, "Get the scissors and glue and then come to the front to collect the craft supplies," we could break this up into the first instruction being, "Get the scissors and glue." Then, after all the children have followed this, we can elicit the second instruction, "Come to the front and collect the craft supplies." Supplement verbal instructions with visuals. Children who may struggle to understand the instructions due to English not being their first language will likely benefit from visual supports. This may include pictures or diagrams which depict the instruction. Keep instructions consistent. To familiarise children to the instructions, it is ideal to keep a consistent wording for instructions that are repeated frequently. For example, before recess and lunch, the teacher may always use the wording, "First get your hat, lunchbox and water bottle from your bag. Then line up near the door."
Multilingual children may also be observed to have difficulties with reading. Specifically, multilingual children may have difficulties recognizing and remembering letter sounds. So, seeing the letter A and knowing its name is A and it makes the A sound, as well as reduced reading fluency from difficulty decoding and blending letter sounds. To help support improved reading accuracy and speed, teachers can implement the following to enhance reading abilities. Create a literacy-rich environment in the classroom that includes books, magazines, and digital texts that are culturally diverse. This should also be encouraged with parents to create a literacy-rich environment at home, building letter sound awareness. So explicit teaching of letter identification and their sound with application in word generation activities. For example, having a letter and/or sound of the day. Encouraging multimodal learning. Incorporating the use of physical books, audiobooks, or auditory feedback, and interactive activities to help consolidate their understanding.
Bilingual and multilingual children may struggle with tasks involving writing. As mentioned before, bilingual and multilingual children may struggle with reading due to letter sound correspondences. When children write words, it also requires them to use their understanding of letter sound correspondences to piece together letters. Hence, this challenge would mean children will likely struggle to spell words correctly. Bilingual and multilingual children may also have challenges with structuring their writing, as their home language's grammar and syntax may vary from English. So, how can we support these children in the classroom? Children who have challenges with spelling will benefit from the previously mentioned strategies of explicit teaching of letter identification and letter sound correspondences. For children who struggle with structuring the writing, the following supports can be beneficial. Modelling. Provide examples of how to take ideas discussed and noted down in a text form. Scaffolds. For different text types, provide explicit scaffolds which break down the process of writing. Scaffolds may include information on what to include and the order in which these should be included within the text. Scaffolds can be used to support children with the macrostructure and microstructure of text. This visual scaffold will supplement the verbal instructions you are providing in the classroom. Ask. Invite children to share their thoughts verbally to first understand exactly what they want to write. Then support them to organize their thoughts through the use of scaffolds. Scaffolds are a visual support which outline the important components students must include in different types of writing. Scaffolds for persuasive and imaginative writing will be discussed. As Stage 2 moves to explore early forms of persuasive writing, which is focused on in Stage 3, the use of a peel scaffold can support students with the structuring of persuasive texts. The peel paragraph structure supports students to create a single, clear and focused argument. It ensures the body paragraphs consistently relate back to the question. When using the peel structure, students can be asked to consider the point. What is the paragraph going to be about? What is the question asking? Do I agree or do I disagree? Evidence. What evidence or examples can support the point? Explanation. Students can consider, how does the evidence support the point? Link. How does the explanation answer or relate to the question? In Stage 2, students are required to sequence events from narrative texts. To support students' categorization of events from the beginning to end of a story, the following scaffold can be used. This will allow students to compartmentalize the story events and visually break up the information that they have read or heard. Subsequently, a storyboard scaffold can be used to separate out each event in the story in sequential order. Both these scaffolds can not only be used to organize a story that children have read or heard, but can also aid them during the generation of their own story. A story arc scaffold will also support students during the planning stage. This scaffold will ensure that all crucial elements are included in their story. Students will be prompted to plan the orientation by answering questions such as who, what, where, when, why, and how. Then, as depicted by the inclination of the line, students will need to plan the rising action by considering potential problems or conflicts the character or characters will face. Then, at the tip, students will consider what will happen at the climax. Then, depicted by the decreasing line, students will consider the falling action, how the characters will resolve the problem or conflict. Finally, the stagnant straight line, the resolution. This is where the students will decide what happens to the characters at the conclusion of the story. All scaffolds are beneficial for children who find writing challenging, as it breaks down each requirement of the text type through a visual medium using instructions which are easy to understand. Bilingualism and multilingualism is a powerful gift, a gift that can open up many pathways for children, and a gift that should be embraced. We hope that our presentation today is an encouragement and support for how to navigate the differences that come with bilingualism and multilingualism.